Hi, and welcome back to the second hour of the Monday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you in the conversation. The program again is Focal Point. The network is AFR Talk, the American Family Radio Talk Network. Let's grab some phone calls to start the second hour. Let's begin with Philip in Mobile, Alabama. Philip, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Mr. Brian? I appreciate your program. I was listening to your interview with the two gentlemen with the film.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make a comment. I had the opportunity in college to sit in a philosophy class where I was also challenged on my faith. And I tell you the thing that it did for me is it questioned, yes, my faith, but it questioned me in a way that I went into to dig my roots deeper, to make my faith even more sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think with anything, and even as, you were talking to the gentleman, so many times we believe things, but then we don't know why we believe them. And I would say that was my experience from the philosophy class, and I actually developed a great relationship with my teacher, even though, we still saw things differently. I found, I was able to, to talk with him and actually found out that he came from a Christian background. But that was my experience.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you sharing that, Philip. And it's interesting. My experience mirrors yours. I went to a very secular university. It was very hostile to Christian faith. In fact, I had a professor. This was at Stanford University. I had a Western civilization professor my freshman year. And it really honestly seemed to me that he was dedicated to one thing. I mean, his mission in life was to destroy the last remaining shred of Christian faith of every student in his freshman class. I mean, he was just relentless. And frankly, and Philip, I don't know if this was your reaction, but when he did that, it just ticked me off. I said, this guy's obviously trying to bully me. He's trying to push me and other like-minded people around. I'm not going to let anybody do that to me. I'm going to make up my own mind about this stuff. And you're right, Philip, the fact that my faith was challenged was good for my faith. It strengthened my faith. It was like a four-year workout in some kind of mental fitness gym because you had to learn how to think about your faith and how to defend it. I read a lot of C.S. Lewis, read a lot of apologetics, and my faith was much stronger by the end of my college career than it was at the beginning. Got involved in great fellowship in college, met regularly several times a week with other brothers in Christ for time in the Word, was mentored by a couple of great men, had an opportunity to begin teaching the Scriptures. And by the end of my college career, in an absolutely hostile pagan environment, my faith was stronger than when it started. All right, Philip, listen, I appreciate your call. My experience very similar to yours. Let's go to Michael in Victoria, Texas. Number, by the way, is 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Michael, welcome. What's on your mind?
Brian, go on holy. That's what's on my mind.
I'm unholy?
No, I said go on holy.
Oh, go on. Okay.
Remain holy. That'll make it simple.
Okay, good. Well, I like that message a lot better, and I will make it my pledge to do that.
The Father said, son, today work in my fields. And Jesus said, look up on the harvest that now is. Pray the Father sends you into the harvest. And he said, I work, and my Father works, and we must work. He said, he also warned that laziness is wickedness. In other words, if it never comes into a man's heart to save other men, that man never really loved God, never really obeyed his voice.
And so what you're talking about is other verses that kind of confirm what we read in 2 Thessalonians 3 about the value and the dignity and the importance of work. Even Jesus talks about God working and he himself working. So there's something noble and dignified about that. And not to accept that responsibility is an immoral thing.
Yes, that's right. Paul said that if a man won't work, he won't eat. And he's talking about the table in heaven, the feast of love. If it doesn't come into your heart to love enough to save other men now, you won't eat in heaven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and beyond that, too, and I think we don't want to miss, Michael, that he's talking about working for wages and working to take care of yourselves and your families as well. I mean, I agree with what you were saying about there's the work of the harvest that we need to do. And just like physical work does, the jobs that we hold down, that involves dedication, it involves commitment, it involves responsibility, it involves keeping our eyes open. But I don't think we want to overlook the fact that the scriptures very clearly says if a man will not work, neither let him eat. And he's talking not just about spiritual food, but talking about physical food. And that the church was even to use church discipline. I mean, this is an amazing thing to me. You think of all the things we might discipline somebody for in the church. And by the way, the world exercises discipline all the time. They are constantly excommunicating people from this and that and the other thing. So you talk about excommunication, that's something that the world does all the time. They're throwing people out of college. They're throwing people out of counseling professions. They're throwing people out of legislatures for corruption and bribery. So when it comes to church discipline, disfellowshipping people, the world has caught on to that as a tool of discipline. So the church isn't doing anything that the world has not already kind of sanctified. The only question is, what do we do it for and what do we do it over? And Paul says an amazing thing, that church discipline is a tool that ought to be used for healthy, able-bodied men who can work but will not do it. They're not to be helped from the food cupboard, not to be helped from the food pantry, not to encourage them to go on welfare and food stamps. If a man will not work, do not let him eat. All right, Michael, listen, I appreciate the call. Thank you. Let's go to James, Starkville, Mississippi. James, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, I just want to let you know that Willie Robinson and his wife of Duck Dynasty crew,
Yes.
they are going to have a part in that movie on God's Not Dead, because I heard them on an interview last week on the radio. I was just going to let you know that.
Yeah, that is correct, James, and I really appreciate you reminding me of that. They do have a role. I don't know exactly what it is because I haven't seen the movie yet, but that's right. Willie and Corey Robertson, they do have a role in the movie God's Not Dead. And that probably tells you a little bit about the quality of this movie because, whatever you think of the Duck Commander folks, they're pretty shrewd operators. They're pretty smart, pretty intelligent, pretty wise, and they would not get involved in a project like this unless they felt it was definitely a worthy project. Number to call if you want to join our program is 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Give you one example about how hostile the environment is at Stanford, which is my alma mater. They've completely trashed the value of tolerance. Remember, these are folks that claim to be paragons of tolerance. It turns out that they are the most intolerant bullies on the block. There's some highly respected people that are going to come to the Stanford campus to talk about marriage on Wednesday at a Communicating Values conference that is sponsored by a student group which is not religiously or politically affiliated, but focuses on family issues. Now, they requested funding for this. This is a student event sponsored by a student organization, and it's customary for honoraria to be provided for guest speakers at these events, and the Graduate Student Council said, no way. No way we're going to fund speakers that are going to come in here and talk about natural marriage. We're not going to do it. And healthy, normal families, we're not going to do it. That would make a lot of our students feel uncomfortable. And so we think it's going to promote hatred. It's going to make this campus an unsafe environment for people. And therefore, we are not going to allow any student funds to be used for this whatsoever. So the event is going to go on, but it's going to have to be funded through other sources. Focal Point AFR Talk. We'll be right back. Stay with us.